Okay, I'm calling this Parks meeting to order. It's Wednesday, March 5th at 4:02-ish. We do have a quorum. And does anyone want to move to adopt the agenda or make any changes?
I move to adopt the agenda. Second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. And then we do have a visitor communication. Pat? Would you like to speak?
About the labyrinth in the transportation hub that Paul Montana suggested, and we would love to have it happen, is to have some fencing around the labyrinth because we don't want people walking through it or dogs going and using it. So that's my comment.
That's a good idea. Not sure how that city would be deciding that. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. I'll be reporting to city council, so. Yes.
Okay, I'm a little confused by this one. It says approval of minutes, but it says none.
There are no minutes.
For this meeting?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not.
To approve, yeah.
Great. Does everyone approve the non-minutes?
Just a minute. Wait a minute, where are they?
Okay, so let's go right into the presentation of the transit hub naming. I had a bunch of questions on, I know I wasn't here, so I apologize. So I might ask a few questions just because I'm curious. I felt like when I missed the meeting, we had a bunch of creative juices flowing, and now I'm looking at the ones we chose, and there's obviously sisters was a very important word because it's in all of them, and then 3 was an important word. It's in 40% of them. So I don't know, and then we had this response, and I guess I don't know if we need to revisit this at all or not. I just wanted to bring it up. I wasn't here, so I apologize if I'm ripping off a Band-Aid.
At the last meeting, we came through and rated these. We didn't put a ending. We just thought it was more important to identify kind of a feeling of what it was, and then hub or gateway or trans or whatever could be added later. And these were the top 5 that we came up with. I don't think any of us were thrilled. We didn't have an overwhelming response from this committee for one versus the other. And then it went out to the public and they were kind of ho-hum the same as we were.
Yeah, and if so let me just explain what I put here. So as we're thinking about the next step, we can have this in mind. I think overall it was sort of lukewarm in terms of the response. There isn't anything that really jumped out and said, hey, that's the name. And that might be a reality for this property that we need to sort of grapple with. It is an unusual piece of land, past, present, and future. So keeping that in mind. But I just, what I did here was, I think by adding the scores, and I'll explain that, it tells the story a little bit about the response that we got from the public. So this number represents an addition of the 4s and the 5s. So that were the people who said, I really kind of like this. And so Sisters Junction came out number 1 in that regard. So 150 people said, I like it a lot, like 100% or 4 or 5. And so that's what you can see all the way down. You can see 146 liked Sisters Gateway. That's pretty high as well. And then it starts to drop off, 106, 86, and 59 people liked it enough to do a 4 or a 5. In addition to that, I added up the 1s and 2s. So these are the people who say, I don't I didn't like this at all. And this is where, that's why it was a little bit like, is this, where are people with this? Because almost as many people said that. Um, and that's true for this as well. But then you can see starting from 3, 4, and 5, that there are way more 1s and 2s than there are 4s and 5s for each one of these. So this is very strong, I would say, as undesirable. These though, I'm not, personally, I'm not so sure we need to throw them out necessarily. I do think that this shows some strength there. I think there's a possibility, although I did some testing and it tested well, but I do think there's some possibility that a number of people voted 1 thinking number 1. Um, so we can take that into consideration, just as a testing variable. So that's the readout from that. And then I think one of the pathways we can think about initially here is, do we want to continue working with what we have, either here or maybe, reviving a little bit or trying to, make sure that these are ones that we don't want. These are all the ones that you have come up with previously. And keep working along that way, and also coming up with that second part that Nancy was talking about, whether it's transit center or transportation hub, that kind of thing. Or if we want to go down a different path and see if we can come up with additional names and things like that.
And,
I
and
would
it-
say
and if it
one-
would help the group, I had a little talk with Jordan yesterday when we saw the results. It's essentially going to be a park with a transit hub in it, if you think about it. Now, we started off with the word transit hub because we thought that was a requirement of the grant. We had to do the work, and it turns out that it's not. So we have some flexibility there. So in doing so, as you think about these names, or any of the names that were submitted from the Facebook post, I was on a park district board. You know, and Jennifer and I were talking about this early for those who weren't in the room. And I mentioned it last week, last time we met, and that is that the public will shorten the name to something that works. And it may not be the shortening that you want unless you give them something that is the shortening that you want. And so, because that's just the nature of the beast. People tend to shorten the names of parks or other amenities to whatever's quickest. It's sort of a internet slash whatever thing, BKC. And, and so, I think, I really encourage you folks to think like that and let the city figure out how to handle the transit hub aspect of it, if that's what they need. And it may just be signage with a bus on it with an arrow pointing into the park. That may be the signage on a street sign, like you'd see driving down any of the roads in the US. And yes, you know, I think that would be a good, say, name the park and then name the transit station something within it.
I would concur with Gary's thought process on that because I initially was thinking it was going to be a transit hub. I mean, if it was going to be a park, I think I would have totally looked at that quite different. Because I know we went around and around last time about transit hub or travel center. I mean, it was all related to a destination for travel. So I think we need to really relook at that.
How's everyone else feeling? I'm just throwing it out here and wondering, with the response we had, along with the hard work everyone's done, I don't want to throw that under the bus, obviously. But,
Um,
yes, fair enough.
I mean-
city have for us to start fresh?
Yeah, that's a good question.
In my discussions with Jordan, I think we have a little bit of leeway. I look into Rebecca, but we kind of had a sense we wanted this name before the work was done so we could put it up with what's going on. And they had started work again. I don't know if you went by, but they're actually getting ready to do the concrete work and stuff now. The weather's a little better. But I think giving it the right name, my personal opinion is this: one city councilor, 1/5 of the vote, is that it's more important that we get the name right than we get the date right.
Yeah, I would say I agree that there is some wiggle room with our timing. I think it really worked for us to get started right away, not January 15th, and we've been working at it. And so it gives us a little bit of
And so um, I just encourage you folks, you know, as I said, in talking with Jordan, I kind of got thinking, yeah, you know, we have the labyrinth, we're gonna have the dog area, we're gonna put in a nature trail, it's gonna be some kind of a trail and through their walking path. There's the signboards that talk about the history of the highway. And so it's gonna have a draw of its own unrelated to buses and parking. And so that's when we started
Right,
talking
I
about
mean,
maybe a park name is what we were.
I totally see the intention,
Mhm.
looking through the lens that we were looking. I mean, that makes perfect sense. But if we're looking at as a park as a whole and the transit hub being part of it, it's kind of a different lens. I don't know if we need to revisit all this and just go to the top two. Although I'm still very confused by the voting, with like the huge response as Three Sisters Vista. I mean, I am questioning if
People which way to do it. This is what we came up with. Probably the next thing, so to just put in your head would be, to just say, what's your favorite? Just pick one. So just to say that, okay. Some of the suggestions were, one was the rest stop. One was the stage stop. One was Sisters Crossroads Stage Stop, or Stage Hub, or the Hub. Sasquatch Corner. Sisters Country Rest Stop. And then there were two suggestions for naming after people. One was to name after somebody named John Craig, who was the mail carrier that used Highway 242, late 1800s to the planet. And one was John Gilliland, the first keeper of the toll gate. I would suggest that neither of those are specific enough to sisters. That was one of the council directions. And then I wanted to mention just a couple of others that came out of last meeting, but I think weren't picked up on. Well, one of them was the suggestion, I think, from a member of the public. They gave to you the word travel. So the word travel as part of it. Oh, hello. And then somewhere, somebody in this group said something outdoorsy and fun. I felt like that wasn't really picked up on the way. And then another thing that came out of this group that wasn't discussed as much was using gateways. We have a Sisters Gateway, but I think someone mentioned using gateway as sort of that second part, you know, junction. But that gateway is more the identifier for what's happening with the name. And I guess that could be true with a lot of things.
well, and another option is we name the transit hub after all that hard work under this, and we just name the park something else. I mean, we have that option to come up with two names, potentially, right?
Again, as I said, that wasn't in the original charge didn't come from the city council, it kind of came from staff and everybody else and what we talked about. I think you have the right to report anything you want to report. We're the advisory committee and that's what your job is. To make sure that we don't get so wonky in the weeds that we miss the big picture.
Right.
So are you suggesting like the land itself is like Sisters Park, Portal Park or whatever? And then like the transportation, but it's,
Inside the park has its own name,
mhm,
as opposed to naming the whole park the transportation hub.
mhm.
We name the park with a transportation hub in it.
So,
Name the transportation hub, Sisters Junction, Sisters Gateway, something that we've already worked on. Although to me, I'll just be honest, to come up with a park name without the lens of the hub seems much harder. It's much broader. So I mean, to me, that's a bigger job. And maybe we're not up for it. I don't know. I mean, we did this work. We could just go with this, pass it to city council and let them deal with it.
I think if it's generic enough that it might describe, you know, it might work for the park idea too. I mean, Sisters Gateway to me. Gateway Park, Park and Transportation Center.
That's actually what I was gonna say was Gateway Park and Transportation Hub or Transit Hub. I think that that kind of park could work both ways, right? It's a park, but it's a parking park, right? So the ambiguity might be helpful.
Yeah, yep.
Can I share a couple of things? So I spoke to people at my job and then family and friends and just got some feedback on the project in general. And some of it is reinforcing ideas that we had last week. And I just wanted to confirm those and then also share some new ideas. One was the function of the space when we're talking about the transportation hub. The word mobility universally was rejected. And I think we brought this up last time. Everyone thought it was a reference to walking assistance, like wheelchairs, walkers, that kind of thing. So very negative response to mobility. Transit, everyone that I spoke to thought that must include city buses. And so I think that's an interesting thing to think about. Is transit different from transportation? We are going to have city buses. Yep. And there was a pretty strong response that it should include the word parking. Because if part of the function of the space is a place to park and then go explore, if it just says transit or transportation, the individuals I spoke to felt like that was not clear. So something like Gateway Park and Transportation Hub would include that, I think. But my feedback.
I think those are great points. I think it's important that we discuss that. I liked your idea that we had invested a lot in this already. And I don't think it's too far-fetched to add the word park to a lot of these, whether we take out Sisters and just say Junction Park or whether we keep it in or not. But I do think we've invested quite a bit of time in that. It's just a matter of adding the word park is the kind of the way that I'm looking at it.
I agree. The reason Sisters showed up in all of these was all the vetting we did at the last go round, so that if someone was coming over and they Googled rest stop or whatever in Sisters, it was clear it was a city of Sisters. And so that's why that kept reappearing, not because we don't know where we live, but it was for
Wasn't
visitors. No, it's ease for others. And I agree, Sisters Junction Park, Sisters Gateway Park works. Historical Highway Park, but you'd have to put Sisters in front of it again. Otherwise, you'd think, in my case, the Columbia Gorge Historical Highway. So I don't know that we start the process again, but if anyone has an idea, throw it out and try to work it in. Well, that's a mouthful, Sisters Historical Highway Park.
I think, yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think we have a big enough sign.
Yeah, I know, and that was part of the discussion too, was signage.
I think if we're going to roll with what we started here, I wouldn't throw in historical highway into the mix. I think what we really need to do then, if this is the way we want to go and add park, I think that we all can agree that adding park would be important. And the word sisters could either be, I mean, because we are having two names, right? Because it could be Gateway Park with Sisters Transportation Hub or whatever we're calling in it. If you Google Sisters, it will definitely come up. So it's still in the name. I don't know. Naming a park Sisters, it doesn't jump out at me. Naming the transportation hub Sisters makes 100% sense to me.
Devil's advocate, as a local, I'm going to call it Gateway Park or Junction Park. I'm not going to call it Sisters. Like I don't call it Cliff Clemens Park.
What do you call it?
Clemens Park.
Oh.
I don't call it Village Green. I'll see you at,
Yeah, maybe we put those both down. Junction Park.
Yeah.
I
and
guess
Gateway
not,
Park.
'cause I
Yeah.
use both those full names.
No.
That's why I was.
Sorry.
I
Yeah,
know.
it's how we separate the wheat from the chaff.
Fair enough. Does it make me stronger because I use more words?
Yeah.
Actually, given
Um,
given where it's situated, and I know the transportation, whatever functionality, it won't all be here yet, but I think, it's not yet a super friendly, walkable location. Like, to what extent are locals going to be using this park versus people who are coming into town too? So, I know that's my
I can
kind of
speak to that just a little bit. I mean, right now, it's not very walkable, but the idea will be to have it be kind of there'll be art installations along the pathway. So it is imagined to be a place, a kind of a destination.
Sure.
As well as a place to park and a place to grab the bus, but.
And I would add that I had to go looking for the labyrinth, and it's not because it's not there, but because the portal as it existed when the Forest Service opened, it was sort of you had to kind of wander through the jungle to find whatever you wanted to find. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I think for a lot of folks in town, it was like, okay, I'll rather go walk on the Peterson Ridge Trail or something. We're not going to get everybody over there, but I do think that one of the goals I know that Paul has and that I've expressed in my discussions over the time on council, and I think Nancy may have also, we want to make it a friendly place for the public, whether it's our public or whether it's our visiting public, is really, I don't want to say not important. It's just, I think we want to be a friendly place to all of our public. And I believe that if we do have some form of a fenced area for dogs, that would be the first dog park in the city, people will be there.
Absolutely.
And I also think that the art walk will bring people. And I think a key component of this that I haven't figured out yet, and you guys, I mean, it's going to be probably the one place in town where you can park a car and walk downtown and know you're going to find a place to park a car. Good luck the rest of the time. And so, those are all things that I see that will bring some of our local residents to the area as well as other area residents. So that's nothing to do with the naming, just my random thoughts. But I do think it will be a much friendlier place for somebody who's looking to sit and rest, to go for a walk, to get off a bus and have a place in the shade to sit on a bench, or to go walk the labyrinth, or to walk their dog. And there will be a dump station, dump the tanks, but the thing is that, don't go there. And the thing is that I think it will, by its nature, be used more as a park than it will be used initially as a transit center, because while we do have buses from CET, there's only two. We do have the one that goes over the mountain, there's only one. The goal is to expand that. And it also may be where some of the folks who run vans in the summer would pick their folks up and take them up into the mountains and things like that. So transit is a broad term that probably is more than a city bus, which is what it makes me think of as well.
So I'm going to remind folks of the time. We've already been
fair enough.
longer at this than we have left. And I want to be sure we have some outcome today. And I'm not quite sure I know what that's going to be. What are we driving towards?
Well, I think we've all agreed the word park needs to be added no matter what. And how it's added is just the one question. And does the park itself have the word sisters in it? Or does the transportation hub have the word sisters in it? Because now it is, I mean, it'll be a little bit longer name. It'll be like Gateway Park Sisters Transportation Hub or something like that, hyphenated Sisters Transportation Hub. Is that kind of what we're going for or not?
Can I speak to that? So I think, first of all, having the word park, I agree that it already feels welcoming. I think when it was a transportation center, I didn't think people would actually want to go there. To hang out, to walk their dog. But I think that park is great. I think we're going in a good direction. I think that if we have Gateway Park and Transportation Hub, for example, I don't think we need the word sisters anymore, because when we say park, I think people assume it is a city related place. That's my feeling. I don't think there are parks, and correct me if this is wrong, I don't think we have parks that are not associated with this city.
Yes, we do.
We do. Which one is it?
The three specialty parks, we have the Heiser Pines, we have Bob Chandler Memorial Skate Park, and then Bike Park 242.
Yep, they have their private.
We have one in our
lands.
neighborhood that's,
And they're called parks, like the word park is in them.
I don't know if the one in my neighborhood, I don't think has an actual name.
Yeah.
I will say we get calls for Village Green all the time. It's confusing because we do have a bunch of people who operate own parks in the town. So I think that adding the word sisters is not going to clarify for people if it's the city or if it's the Park and Recreation District or what have you. I personally think that when we're looking at the name that, because I agree with Gary, I mean, to me, it's an amenity of what we're going to have there, just like the Labyrinth, just like the dog park. And so to me, it shouldn't, and this is just my opinion, but if it's like Sisters Junction, that's the name. And then we have wayfinding when you get in there, maybe when on the street, you have your little amenities. Maybe there is a visual for a transportation center that can be under that, but not necessarily in the name. Because my fear is that once it does get too long, exactly, no, everybody's just going to call it the junction. So just my thoughts.
And also on Google Maps, because we were talking about finding, I do believe we can edit it to include whatever descriptor we want, if we claim it as. So we can have it, come up as Junction Park, Gateway Park, but then we can edit that subheading and it could say Transportation Hub, Dog Park, Labyrinth.
So we need to come up with a plan because we're running out of time. So we all agree that park needs to be added. It looks like the top two were the favorites. Does everyone agree there? So I guess the question is, do we play with the word park and these on our own and then email you again and
Well, okay, I think one question right now is I think what you're getting at, are we wanting to open this up and continue to think and then come up with our list next meeting
I
that
think
then we'll give to council?
I think we should, to a limited factor of we're going to use the top two or three if we want, but probably just the top two, and use the word park and decide if the words, I mean, we could just try and do it real fast, but decide if the word sisters is in the word park or not is kind of where we are.
And I would encourage you to look at those top preferred items that fell off and some of the others, because some of them didn't get put in because they didn't work with the concept of the transit hub naming. So for instance,
Got it.
I'm looking at Stage Stop Park. That might work under this sort of an
Work out.
iteration. But so I just think that
I think it's a good idea for us to spend some.
yes.
Let's look at these lists. If anything comes out of here, we'll put it here. And then if we feel like we need to play around with those more and do another meeting, then that's great. If nothing really comes out of here, I think we're close,
Yeah, that's,
closer than we think.
better than going, scrapping it and starting over.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm not going to deal with this because we already have that up here. So from here, we have crossing, landing. These are just the words. Lookout, trailhead, travel, stage stop. We have adventure hub, crossing. Oh, I said that. Timber trail. And then the other ones, saddle up, happy trails, giddy up and go, volcanic vista, Robin's Nest, Robin's Landing, Robin's Lookout, Western Welcome Way Station, any of those words? Timber Trail, are any of these jumping out for anyone?
I
Yeah, I
think
mean,
one's,
to me, when you add the word park at the end, it really makes a big difference.
I think something's jumping out to Nancy.
The stage stop park, I think would be appropriate there.
Stage Stop Park.
Yeah, Adventure Hub, we talked around a lot last time. Hub, no one liked the word. Adventure Park, I don't know that that works.
That's different. No.
Yeah.
I see zip lines.
Zip lines.
Yeah.
Roller coaster.
It was something else.
Saddle Up,
I like Saddle Up, but
Happy Trails.
Yeah, I look out
Lookout.
park,
Lookout.
and you can see the sisters from,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to say, I got this feeling, because this one came out so poorly. And I got this feeling that people don't know. It was only when you guys went out there that you were
That's
like, oh my gosh, it's beautiful. You have a look, it's a kind of a lookout.
Yeah, to add to that point, when I was speaking to people, everyone said, I wouldn't go there. I would just go park in front of the Peterson, or what is the park? It's not the Patterson Ranch, it's the Pole Creek Ranch. I just would park in front of Pole Creek Ranch to look at the view.
Mm.
And I do feel that sentiment is there, at least with locals, that we don't go look for that little narrow view. We would just drive down the street and park in front of the fence.
So you
People
want to put
sit in their
Vista Park,
cars
is
and
that what
look
you're
at it
saying?
and Contemplate it, there's a bench or two there, maybe a local person might park their butt there rather than drive their car, but I agree with you, Tony, I do the same thing, I drive down.
Vista Park. yes. That's good.
I really like stage stop in this context because it kind of still has the travel feel, but it doesn't, maybe not quite as explicitly travel only. And it gets that idea of the Old West and the Western.
Mhm.
Does. Junction Park, Gateway Park, Stage Stop Park, Lookout Park, Vista Park,
Outpost Park.
Outpost Park.
A lot happens there. I think that's I mean, I think what we've done is we've taken it through a different lens. I think that's pretty solid. I don't think we have to go any further. I wouldn't go any further than that.
Agreed.
I would agree.
So at this point, we can, I'm gonna go through these one more time in a minute, but, do we want to have the board think about it for the next month? Or would you like me to put a survey out to the public again and say, let's choose one?
I recommend we just ship it to the public.
I think if you do, it needs to be not 6 options. That's part of the reason why these are so lukewarm.
Mhm.
Why can't they just vote for one?
I mean, I agree,
Right.
still vote for one, but you
Okay.
still could easily have 2020, 2020,
Yep.
and then still not be completely.
Usually when you do that, the one in the top gets the most votes, 'cause it's just easier.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah,
So how would you propose we start eliminating things? What did you do last time? 'Cause I was-
let's take a vote.
Oh, geez, let me ask you then.
This, but Sisters Park and Transportation Center, if it's your top three, raise your hand.
I
Yeah,
see.
yeah.
And then we were just hypercritical.
It was a bloodbath.
Yeah.
I just throw in something real quick.
Pardon?
So we
Uh,
should just take the
This
word
is-
transportation center
Yeah,
off.
first of all, this, is this one part of the running or not? That's,
No.
okay. And then, yeah, we're
See how easy
not
that
dealing with
was?
that at this point in
So,
time.
so we're,
So
cruising
we have
right
one,
along.
2, 3, 4,
I
5.
was just gonna ask if you felt like, I don't know, some of these, I feel like maybe kind of unfinished or maybe less descriptive without maybe some extra wording. I guess like with Vista Park, it's like, well, what is it a vista of? And I know like Three Sisters Vista didn't pull well. But I sort of feel similar about a few of the others, right? And I know we had a discussion before of like locals don't need sisters, but I guess the reason why I brought up the point about the placement of the park and the eventual usage will bring a lot of folks coming from out of town. So like the gateway to what or the junction where I think does matter. Um, and like, yeah, things like Lookout Vista Outpost, like without some kind of signifier, whether that's for sisters or some other geographical point, it does feel like it's not a specific place, I guess.
Do you feel
think
the
you
way,
have
that
a-
way about Village Green or Cliff Clemens Park? I mean, there's no descriptor on any of those. I'm just, if we're naming a park, that's why I asked the question.
Yeah, but at least I mean I don't know who Cliff Clemens was, haven't looked into that, but at least it is clearly like a specific person who I assume has some tie to the place, or at least to sisters at large, right? But like Gateway could be associated anywhere. It's not like a proper name or have some kind of local signifier.
So for something like Gateway, would you think we should add the word Sisters Gateway Park?
I think that's possible, yeah.
I just want to point out that there is a Cascades Gateway Park on the other side of the mountains. Whether we want to make it reference that or not, if we say Sisters Gateway, I think it is kind of like, well, then there's Cascade Gateway on the others.
I still think Sisters needs to be in the name, just because it's the entryway, it's the first public bathroom people are going to see on their way in. It's the transit place. If I'm gonna, I'm a divorced parent and I'm swapping my kids from Burns to the Valley, that's the halfway part, maybe. So I'll meet you at the transit center, I don't know, or the Sisters, whatever. And disclosure again, I am on the Explore Sisters board, and I think identifying it as sisters is always very beneficial, not to just community members, but people passing through.
But aren't we adding Sisters Transportation Center and Sisters Transportation
Or
Center?
it could just
at the
be
end.
Sisters Gateway and Transit or Transportation Center, or Sisters Junction and
But you want that
Transportation.
word sisters
I think
in the
Sisters
first
is
part of it.
key up front, and locals are gonna call it Gateway or Junction or whatever else, but that could just be my bias. I just
No,
got kicked out of jury duty. I'm feeling vulnerable.
no, I think you have a good point.
Yeah.
I think both of you had a good point, and I could see people if we came up with Junction Park, people saying, wow, they really took a lot of time to think of that. They put, and so, but to your idea, if it's Sisters Junction Park, they're not gonna use the word park. They're just gonna say, I'll meet you at Sisters Junction. So the park word, Village Green and Cliff Clemens, they don't say park. So that's a good point.
First Street. That's, everybody refers to it as First Street. We know it as First Street Park. but
Yep.
it's First Street.
The sign can say that. The sign will say that.
Don't think stage stop works as well as sister.
Oh, yeah. That's-
I think that's what got kicked out last time.
Yeah, without the word sisters, I like stage stop personally. With the word sisters, I don't like it at all.
So yeah, we don't have to add it to all of them.
So I,
Yes.
I guess and I understand what you're saying. Yeah, we don't have to add it to all, so we could add it back into Junction and Gateway, because those are the two, that's how we presented it before. And I feel like if we do go to the public, those two should definitely still be on there, just by votes.
So I just have a note about that. Matthew sort of made me think about how the public might be receiving this because they haven't been part of this conversation. They didn't get the information through Jordan through Gary, from Jordan, and they haven't talked about what it's going to be as in terms of a park. Already with these here, they were like, this doesn't describe that anything going on there. I don't know what you guys are doing.
Right.
I think now we come back to them, they're like, what, a park? I mean, if we want to go that path, I would have to definitely like do a lot of explaining, which could work, that's fine. But I'm feeling a little bit like I'm not sure. I don't know. It might be just fine. I just feel a little hesitancy with those thoughts.
I'm sorry, I guess, what do you?
I guess I'm saying,
gonna-
I'm
going to-
not sure. We might be confusing the public by going out to them again
Right.
with something very different. It's a whole different thing we're doing now. We've just changed it completely. And now they, are like, wait a minute, we were talking about a transit center. Now we're talking about a park.
Right.
Um,
But it is a park. I
But
don't
they
know
don't
if we
know
have to
that.
have, I do agree, we need to have a description. I don't think it has to be very long. I think it should just say, this park will house the transportation center,
mhm.
a dog park, parking, the labyrinth. What am I missing?
Restrooms.
Bathrooms, yeah.
Okay, so I can
I was just
explain
I was just
that.
Just,
And you think
just,
we'll do
in
that?
just, I mean, literally just list it. And I think that the public will get it. I mean, when I've talked to people about it, they're like, what, I don't understand why, this is boring. That's the response I got, is this is boring.
Yeah.
So and it was boring because we were looking at it as a transportation hub, which unfortunately is not that exciting in the first place. But now that we're looking at it as a park and we can be a little more playful,
Yeah.
I
It
I
is a
think
good way
it's
to
a-
inform them as well.
right,
Mhm.
and so I feel like we're okay.
Okay.
I understand the concern about the word sisters, although my point is if we add the word sisters transportation center or hub or whatever it is at the end, as long as it's not the first word, we're still naming it something unique.
So
Does the transportation hub need a distinct name, or there was the point made earlier, I think Jennifer, you were saying, like just having the wayfinding and say, we don't need another mouthful name, but like it's the bus stop at whatever name of park.
That's true. But with the concern that everyone's brought up, I feel like we need to add the word sisters in somewhere. I don't necessarily think it needs to be the first word.
So,
That's my point. Although I do agree that it could be on some, like Sisters Gateway Park, Sisters Junction Park, that makes sense. But Stage Stop Park with Sisters Transportation Hub makes more sense than saying Sisters Stage Stop Park.
yes.
I couldn't even do it.
Our job technically is to ferret this down to 3, hopefully, names recommended to city council. So we have an option today to narrow it down to 3 or 4 based on the input and then our new discussion today amongst ourselves. Or as I think you were saying, do we want to go out to the public with this? How does everyone feel about that? Keep it internally, add 2 new names and pass it on to council? Or go back out with more information for another public input? Because I think that's the question today, as how quickly we move on in
Well, if
7
we're-
minutes.
And let me just add one thing to this, in your thinking, is that I still believe pretty firmly that we have a little bit of time. So, for this to be fleshed out a little more, if that's what you folks need. If you don't think you need it, that's fine.
No.
But I don't think it'll be on a council agenda until, just looking at what's coming up, it's probably going to be sometime in April for us on a council agenda anyway, I would think.
It's March.
And it's March right now, so, and it might even be May, so but probably April, mid to late April, depending on what else is on the calendar.
Yeah, we have it tentatively scheduled for April 9th.
Mhm.
I think that does give us one more meeting before that. I'll have to look at the calendar, but yeah, again, it can be in May as well.
I do think the question will be asked, has there been any public input on this? Now, I'm comfortable in saying, yeah, there was, and nobody liked anything, so we came up with some new ones, but, I-
So Gary votes for public input.
well, I'm just thinking that will be a question from the council.
Yes. Can
Yeah, I know.
others
I-
raise
I-
your hand? Do you want public input? Yes or no?
I think it would be interesting to send out a new survey that's simplified and say, we are going to consider this as a park. Let's kind of think of it in this lens. And can you just vote for your top one or two, however many we decide? Because I think that would also answer some of the questions we have about that data, whether people understood it or not. And I think getting one more very clear, clean survey result might be helpful for all of us. And since we have that time, that would be what I suggest.
Agreed or?
Yeah, I think that we should we just vote on that? Somebody want to make a motion or can I? Sure. Let's,
Okay. So I think because it, I know that, is Emmy on? Oh, she's not? Oh, okay. So I thought, look at, yeah, attendees.
yes,
Click on attendees.
great, but
Yeah, that's.
I mean, I
Jamie
feel like we
Baker.
should
She's raising her hand.
get it a little more right. I
Well-
feel like we got it right.
I
But
think
what-
it's important what Jennifer, she's had a lot of experience with surveys. And if we don't narrow this down to 3, I think we may have the same issue down the
So,
road.
We can stay longer. That's one option. Or I can put out a survey to you all to narrow these down. We can kind of go back and forth a little bit in some way. And then I can put out that to the public, or we can just do this next meeting and put it out to the public after that.
Wait, I can stay a little longer. I just have school board after this, but,
Oh, that's not important.
but that's not for another hour.
The chair won't be there to run the meeting, so you can take any time you want.
Exactly. So I don't know, would everyone be willing to stay a little bit longer?
Yep.
And we can eliminate a couple of names off of this and then we can send it out to the public?
And I would make one comment about that, what you just said, and that is that I think if this goes to the council and went to the public twice, we had kind of mediocre responses. Let's talk about what we think we want to name the park. At that point in time, I think that removes concern the council may have that it has not been put before the public and vetted.
Mhm. Yep.
Fair enough. Okay, well, let's start crossing stuff off. I would vote to take Vista off because we already had some negative response and if people don't understand what Vista is, then I don't know. That's
Agree. Let's get rid of it.
great. Vista's gone.
Okay. She's like, it only took an hour.
We might not have to stay extra. Sure,
Yeah.
Yeah, I
I'm fine
agree.
with that too.
I agree.
I would say 3.
1, 2,
I
we're
like it.
4.
Yeah.
Is 4 too many? The only reason I like 4, well, Gateway and Junction are kind of the same, but they were voted for. I mean, we could choose just to choose one of them. But to me, Stage Stop sounds different, Lookout sounds different, Junction and Gateway kind of sound the same. So I'm just throwing out, we could go with 4, but in my opinion, either Junction or Gateway, one should stay and one should go, or we go with 4.
I think it's worth the discussion to add Sisters to Junction and Gateway, though.
Yeah. I think
It
it's
So
just-
Sisters Junction Park and Sisters Gateway Park? And do we need to keep them both? Let's start with, do we need to keep them both? I agree, we could add Junction.
Yeah,
That's it.
I agree keeping both, but add Sisters to both. It
I'm
just
fine
seems.
with,
I
I vote to drop one.
Oh, I got you,
So
got you.
drop one.
Oh, I got you. Okay.
Add sisters.
I'm sorry?
Drop one, but add sisters.
Yes,
And having done a lot of surveys personally,
gateways.
I think each one is parasitic to the other. When you look at the responses up there, you had it divided. If you want to
Okay.
see how strong people feel about the concept of junction gateway, whatever that word is, get rid of one and see
Yeah.
how that goes against those other ones.
So I vote for Sisters Gateway personally, but that's just me.
I vote for
I'd go with Sisters Junction.
I like
Okay,
Junction better.
okay. What?
But you're at the table though, Jennifer.
I think Gateway speaks more to how people will use the space, without getting as like technocratic about the like functional words like mobility and hub, right? It's visitors gateway to the town, whether that's parking and walking there or taking some other mode.
And it was mentioned that there's a gateway on the other side
Yeah,
of the
and
mountains.
so
that's-
it
that's where
acknowledges
my
the
head went
thing
with
that
gateway.
junction gets at, but using a multi-purpose words.
And it's on the placard that's there already.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh.
there's a Gateway Mall in the city I used to live in, so it makes me think of a shopping center.
Well,
That's interesting.
But it's not here. It's not here though.
on what?
Sisters Gateway Junction.
So, so it was 4-2?
Yeah.
Are you,
Aspiration, right, yes, you know.
okay. Who votes for, Junction? Okay, we have 2. Who votes for Gateway?
Gateway wins.
But now I'm
I
gonna
thought
think
you
of
were
a shopping
too, Nancy,
center.
but I wasn't.
Sorry.
And we're adding
Well,
Sisters
I-
go ahead.
But that would be, I mean, we've still got Lookout Park in there, which I'm not crazy about. I mean, we're
So-
trying to narrow it down to 3, right?
Correct. My point about the Junction and Gateway is they're a
similar.
similar concept where stage stop is different and lookout is different.
I'm not sure that Lookout is all that different. I mean, what, is there a reason that, I mean, if Junction and Gateway are similar, why would that eliminate one or the other? I mean, they're both along the same lines.
Exactly, but that was kind of the point where I was looking for a variety to offer the public. That brings me back to the question, do we just keep 4? Can we keep 4?
So let me go back just a second because I missed it. How many voted for Junction and how many voted for Gateway?
2 voted for Junction and 4 voted for Gateway.
Okay.
Jennifer, what would you recommend for the number of choices we offer, since you have a lot of experience with surveys?
Get rid of Lookout and present Sisters Gateway Park and Park and see how those test. But I think 3 is the max.
Are we adding Sisters to Lookout Park? Or are we just talking about Lookout?
Well, we didn't talk about that. We only talked about adding it to Junction and Gateway. We could add it.
Do we like Cascade Lookout better, or do we like Sisters Lookout better?
That's a good one. Cascade Lookout. That's a good one.
I actually do like that better because it's more unique and it definitely describes exactly what you're looking out at, which goes to your point
Yeah.
of, so we could change it to,
I'd be willing to trade Junction Park out for that. Yeah.
oh, and an orange? You have a deal.
So it sounds like we have Gateway Park, Stage Stop Park, sorry, Sisters Gateway Park, Stage Stop Park, and Cascade Lookout Park. Those are the 3.
Yeah,
I think that's a nice range.
there you go.
Yeah, and it covers
you
different
okay with
interests.
that?
and-
Yeah, yeah,
Great,
that's
so
good.
we're getting rid of Junction. There, we're done.
Yay.
Perfect.
That's-
Good time.
And, you know, you can do the survey results and.
I
send it
started
to
2
the
minutes
group
late. We're right on time, but we still have some.
So that everybody's there. And then you can decide as a group whether
Oh.
you need to meet again, or whether you can just have sort of a poll of the committee back to you as to which ones they want to move forward. But I think if you move 3 forward to the council, it's not the end of the world. And, like I said, yep. They may screw it up anyway.
Yeah, I really like
Sisters
that.
Gateway Park, Stage Stop Park, and Cascade Lookout Park. Good work, guys.
I think this is,
Wow. On a
thanks
pivot.
for humoring me. But
So I will put these out to the public, and then we'll be in communication about what the next step is. You know, definitely not going to do how well do you like this one, which
just
is
do
what I did
vote for
there.
one.
Vote for one, I think. Yeah, just your top
One.
choice. Because we have to, thank you. We have
Yeah.
to choose one at the end of the day. So, okay. And I think on to Emmy if she's there.
Yep. Staff updates. Ta-da, magic.
I'm here. Voila. Well, it was fun listening to you guys kind of work through that process. That was good. Well, I just have one staff update. I wanted to give a highlight or a call out to Arbor Day. That's going to be happening on April 25th. I think the fourth Friday of the month. And you all are invited. Or your friends or your kiddos. Right now, the plan so far is to have tree planting at like I think it's the southeast corner of the new roundabout. There's an extra wide pathway that will plant some new seedlings along. And I think we'll try to do some other activities, some educational components hosted at the Creekside Park. If anyone's interested in getting involved, please reach out to me. I'd be happy to have some help or at least kind of recruiting, seeing if there's some way for me to tap into the local community and get some kids participating because it's always fun to have kids there planting trees every year. I think this year school's out, so sometimes that might help attendance or it might not. And I'm also interested in hearing if you guys have any ideas based on previous Arbor Days that you think we could work on and improve. Any thoughts?
With the, because I think I missed an Arbor Day meeting. I think with it being right there by the roundabout, it's gonna be a little harder to make it be a kid-friendly situation. So just something to consider. And I know you asked me about using the new community park, and I should know, I should know sooner than later if that could be an option to stage some activities, because that might be a solution to that. But I do think if we do something like, SPRD, we could do like free popcorn or like if you there needs to be something to actually get people there, especially if it's with school not in session. We won't have our, we might not have preschool going on that day. So there might be, there just needs to be a little bit of a hook. So I can think of some other kid activities that might be a little bit of a draw for that, for parents to bring their kids there. So let me noodle on that and I'll send you an email on some thoughts, if that's okay.
I love that. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.
Anything else?
I don't think so.
Well, I think that's it for now, and I'll keep you all posted on, you'll probably start to see some social media posts of trying to bring awareness to Arbor Day so that we can make sure we have some good attendance this year. And that's it for me. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you. Okay, updates from Sisters Park and Rec District.
First off, I want to apologize for missing a few meetings. I had some family stuff going on, and then it never fails that conferences land in when other meetings are occurring. So apologies. We have been kind of going gangbusters over the Park and Recreation District. As you guys know, we're trying to move our operations over to the Sisters Community Recreation Center. It was also a well-heated conversation as to what we name it. And I just said, we have to name it something. And this is very descriptive. We can change it later if needed. So we are not calling it the former elementary school. So spread the word. Let's go ahead and drop that name right now. So we are construction's done. We're working with Kiwanis to wrap up the 2 multi-purpose rooms. They've been coming out there and putting in new flooring for us and everything. So we should be programmatic operational there on March 14th. We're going to do a ribbon cutting on March 31st. I'll send out some more information about that. It'll probably be around 9 a.m. We really want to get, invite as many people as possible. So you all are invited. But 9 a.m. is a fun time because we got our Zumba class about to start and we got a whole bunch of other stuff going on. So we're excited about that. We'll have a grand opening. So this is like the soft opening, right? Because stuff goes wrong when you move facilities. The grand opening will be paired with our Kids Fest event, which is June 7th. So it'll be a 2-stop shop event for community members to come celebrate being a kid and sisters, and then also check out the new facility. But we'll be offering tours during the ribbon cutting on the 31st, and it'll just be a fun way to see what the new facility looks like. 2 other things, we are installing a pre-K playground on the March 17th also. And so Kiwanis again has prepped the site for us. They've been awesome. We are funding this through private donation, and that preschool is going to be attached to our preschool program that's over at the elementary, at the Sisters Community Recreation Center. So that'll be completed by the end of March, and we'll have a little bit of a ceremony ribbon cutting for that also. And then the community park, if I look like I've aged a few years, there's a reason. The community park, we are putting that project out to bid at the end of this month, and the board will consider or will approve the contract on tax day, April 15th. And then we're hoping to break ground on that by June, sometime in June, and have that project completed, wrapped up by September, October. We'll have a better idea of that once we get those bids back. I am incredibly concerned as to where our bids are going to come back given the current situation with our trade. So we'll see how that works out. But other than that, if you haven't pulled the recreation guide from your nugget today, good job. Be sure to do that. It's our largest guide of the season because it's spring and summer combined. So, yep. Thank you.
Thank you. City Council Liaison, sir.
Not really much to report. The Northwest Park project, or whatever you want to say, that has gone out to bid. I think the bids were received. I'm not sure what they've come back on, but I think they talked to you guys about you screening them. Yeah, that's what I thought. So that's coming right up. So hopefully the next time we see you, we'll have some information on which firm has been picked, and they'll probably have some kind of a work schedule that we'll see and be able to share with you. So we'll know when we might be able to show some kind of a product to this group. Probably my best guess is probably late summer, early fall, but maybe sooner. I haven't really looked at the timelines on it. So we've had this conceptual plan that was the 100,000-foot level, and now we're going down to about 10,000 feet. So it's the best way to put it. And Jennifer's been through this before, she knows. And this is what then you kind of start showing real ideas are in getting people's input. We've had ice rink, we've had pickleball, we've had swimming pool, we've had, you name it, I've heard it. Some of which will never fit on the site, swimming pool being one. And it's 3 acres, so it's somewhat limited. But if we have an ice sheet, it's probably not going to be a regulation ice sheet, for instance. It'll be something different, big enough for curling. And I'm a curler, so. But anyway, you guys just need to figure out how to free up some land at the school. You need to put an ice rink in at the school.
Just
Anyway.
the right size, just saying.
So it would be partially in the roundabout. It would make it quite interesting.
I'm fine with that. It's already icy out there anyway.
Anyway, that's all I have. That's the news right now that's out there. The last thing is, since the campground is technically a part of the park, the major funding for the park district work that goes on, campground reservations are well ahead of last year. And I think the number I heard was over $80,000 worth of reservations so far. It was quite significant. So any major weekends booked, but that campground stays full pretty much all the time once we hit warmer weather, because I live across the street and I walk through it, and there are rarely, if ever, any empty sites.
Fantastic.
And
Any
that's
other?
what funds our parks.
Thank you. Any other business? Sweet. Great job. Thank you, everyone, for humoring me. And I think I feel really good about this. So thank you very much. Meeting is adjourned at 5:14.